Hey, what's up, guys? So I've got a bunch of requests to do another full-length tutorial on a song from beginning to end. But I think what I'm going to do this time, instead of making it so long, is I'm going to um, just kind of go over this track and go over it a lot more in depth instead of actually recreating the track from scratch, because that just took way too long last time, and it was quite boring for some people. So let's dive right in. If you want, you can check out what the song sounds like. It's on my YouTube channel. The track is called The Longing. You can go there and listen to what it sounds like. If you like it, cool. Keep watching this video if you want to see how I did things. If you don't like it, you can stop watching. So here we go. So first off is the kick track. And here, let me turn off this stuff. Okay. So here is the kick. This intro has the, it's got a low cut going. Okay, so let's kind of loop that right here so you can hear what I did. Okay, so this is just a sample out of the Vengeance pack, the Dirty Electro, and it's this one, this neon kick. And so here's what I did for the EQing, and I'll let you hear what it sounds like without this stuff. Actually, let me turn off this send as well. It'll be a little louder. Okay, and then with the EQ. Let's do this. It's really laggy. Let's just do the limiter. Let's just throw this limiter on it for right now. just to give us some extra volume. Okay. Now it's not nearly as laggy with all those on. Okay, so here's the kick with that bypass, and then with the EQ. Which brings out some of the low end, takes out a little bit of the boxiness, which on its own, it doesn't sound bad. All these kicks that they have in these packs are EQ'd really well. The only reason I do this is so that it sits well in the track. Just with all the other instruments going, it's good to cut and boost certain things to make the kick stand out more. It's not necessarily changing the sound of it a whole heck of a lot within the track, and that's the whole purpose of EQing, at least for me, is to get the sound as close to what the original sound is, but within the track. Because if you leave it alone without EQing anything, you'll tend to you'll get a really muddy mix. That's what people mean when things are muddy, is just everything is taking at the same frequency range. So by doing this and doing the small little things like this, it's going to help this stand out a little bit more in the mix. So and then I added, I added this compressor, and all this is doing is I like to do this. I honestly don't know if anyone else does this. I kind of just came up with this on my own. I never seen anyone do it before, and if other people do it, cool. But it's a good little trick. And what I do is I sidechain my kick to my snare. So on my hits where the snare and the kick hit at the same time, like for instance, this is going on every that's a snare. Okay, so right here you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your snare is on your 2 and 4. So your kick and your snare are hitting both on 2 and 4. And so what I do is I sidechain the kick to the snare so that when the snare hits, the kick ducks under just a little bit, but you still get the bassiness from the kick. You just don't get the punch necessarily, as much of the punch from the kick, so that your snare stands out a little bit more. It's not completely necessary to do. I've just had better results this way, getting my snare to stand out a little bit more in the mix. Yeah, so it's a cool little trick. So this is all I did for the side chaining. It's fairly minimal. You can see here that it's not, let's turn this on. It's not ducking a whole lot. It's only, the gain reduction is at 2, so you're still getting a good amount of the kick coming through. It's just enough to make the snare stand out a little bit more. I don't even know. Let me see if you can even hear a difference. Yeah, it's really subtle, but it does help, I find. This gain is just controlling volume. It's nothing special. And this send is being sent to bus 1, which I call my fat fader, which is my parallel compression. And you want to make sure that it's being sent pre-fader. And then I just put it to unity gain, which you can do by option clicking on that. And then it sends it over to here. and you just compress the crap out of it. And I'm sending both the snare and the kick to this. And I just start with lowering this all the way down to 0, and kind of move my way up until it sounds good together, because this one right here is what's going to give you a lot of the punch. The original one is going to give you more of the thump. Just because this one is compressed so much, you're going to get a lot more of the kind of high end, I think. Like, let me see if I can solo this. I don't know if this will work. Yeah. Okay, so that's what that sounds like, which doesn't sound very good compared to these. So watch, if I take this out, just gives it a little bit more punch. And then I've got my drums all being sent to this drum bus as well, which I'll go over that in a little bit. Next up is the snare. And the snare is another Vengeance snare. It's out of this Electro pack. And it's 38. And it's a good mix of a clap and a snare kind of in one, so you don't have to layer it. You still could. But this one sounded pretty good on its own with this track. One thing I'll point out is I always make sure that this section right here is boosted. This one's boosted all the way to the top, and then this one's boosted about halfway down. This enables me to automate the volume with the velocity of these hits. So if I lower the velocity on these hits, it's going to lower the volume, which is good for when you do stuff like this right in here where I've got this. It's kind of a roll, and then I can automate the volume changes just by changing the velocity. And let's see what we got going on here. The EQ. Okay, so here's what it sounds like on its own. And with the EQ. And then I added in a little bit of sample delay on the right channel. Just makes it sound fatter. You can hear it come through the left speaker a tiny bit sooner. Just gives it a cool effect. The gain as well, it's just for volume purposes. Bus 1 again was that parallel compression bus. Bus 2 is my reverb, or no. Oh, bus 2 is I'm sending this to this bus so that I can sidechain the kick to it, but I just have it muted because I don't want any sound coming out of this. I just want it to sidechain that. I want the signal coming through here so I can sidechain the kick to it. And then this one, bus 3, this one is the reverb bus. And on here, I've got Space Designer, and it's just a default setting. This one sounds pretty good. And I have, when you put it on a, when you put your reverb on a bus, you want to make sure that your max on the reverb is all the way up and your dry signal is all the way down. So all you're getting is just straight reverb, and then you use your send kind of like you would your dry wet. Hopefully that makes sense. And then on that, I just have this being cut right here because I don't want the low end on that. You can hear what it sounds like with that. Oops. I can mute this. You can hear that reverb at the end of that snare hit with that on. And I don't have a ton. It's at -40. It's just a little bit. Makes it sound better. And again, this is being sent to this drum bus here on the output. Instead of going to the master channel, I'm putting it all through a drum bus that I then just put a low cut on, and then I do just some subtle compression just to make the drums all sound cohesive. Let's so you can see it's just really subtle compression going on, but it just gives the drums a more cohesive feel. And then once I get all the levels set, then I can adjust the overall volume of the drums just by this one fader. Let's see, that's about it on the snare. I always pan my snare a little bit to the left because I like doing my snare kind of like an actual drum kit. Your kick would be center. Your snare is going to be a tiny bit off to your left-hand side of the drum kit. Your highest tom will be off to the left. Your middle tom will be somewhere near the center. And then your low tom will be all the way to the right. Just so I like to set up my drums kind of like an actual drum kit. The shaker. Let's turn this stuff off. I can leave that one on. All this shaker is, it's out of this percussion pack on this Vengeance Electro pack. Percussion instruments, there we go. And 36. So that's all that is. Again, this is set up the same way, so I can automate volume. And then here's what my MIDI is doing. And you can hear what it sounds like in the mix with that. And the EQ, not a whole heck of a lot going on with EQ, just taking out all the lows. You can see with the analyzer, I mean, nothing down here is even happening anyway. And pretty much all I do on this is have this starting all the way down at the bottom. And bring it up until where you hear it start making a negative change, which was right about there. And then I just sent this to that reverb bus. And sent it to my drum bus as well. And next up is the hi-hat. This one's just actual audio. And just some subtle EQing. Just took out all these lows, boosted up right about here. And then sent it to that reverb bus as well. And here's what the drums sound like. So you can hear that there's a lot of, it sounds like there's a lot of reverb on this hi-hat, but when it's in the mix, it doesn't sound nearly as reverby. I need to show you this. Yeah, so it doesn't sound nearly, you don't hear as much of that reverb that way. Then this is just a reverse crash. And it's just a normal crash that the sound is reversed on. So it leads into these actual crashes, which it's the same. Some EQing. And all this compression was doing is it's taking away that last little peak, and it's bringing out a little bit more of this stuff that's quieter. That's that. I might play you this section so you can hear what it's sounding like altogether. Okay, next up is gonna be this crash. Some EQing. So you can hear how it sounds cleaner. A little bit cleaner with the EQ on. And then just this echo. Oh, I have that automated, I think. That's why. Anyway, that's. And I've got that one going to the right. Okay, so this reverse crash was a different sample than this one. Down here. This one. It's a whole different sample. This one is the actual reverse of this. And that's the only difference. It's the same exact thing, I just have it reversed. Next, I've got these little blips. All I have on them is sample delay. You can hear what those are pretty much just being used as percussion. So you can hear how those sound pretty good. And then under that, we've got this lead. Okay. These. It's gonna sound different with. Okay, and it's being sent through this bus. My synths are being sent to this bus to compress them all so they sound like one cohesive unit. Okay, so that's got like the bass and all that stuff going through there. So you can see how that compressor is working on those. Anyway, so back to the synth. Here's the EQ. Okay, so you can hear it's got a lot more bass like this. And it actually sounds better without the EQ on its own. But I've got this little buzzy bass and my sub bass that are taking up some of this frequency that are filling this spot in, so I don't want it there. And it sounds just like that. It sounds just as good with it EQ'd when it's with all the other stuff, because like I said, this bass and whatnot is kind of filling in this gap that are kind of making up for me cutting this out, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's with the EQ. So EQing it that way just leaves me some room for the kick. It leaves room for the snare punchiness. It'll leave room for this mid-range bass that I got going here, and then it'll leave room for some of this sub bass as well. Just having things EQ'd properly really makes a big difference. This first compressor is compressing the actual sound itself. Just bringing out some of the other nuances in the sound that you aren't getting without that. This compressor is my sidechain, which is being sidechained to my kick and snare. Which, let me change it to this. Let's bring these in. So that's all that one's doing. Then I just got some sample delay. Since I have it being sent over to the left a little bit, you want the delay on the right hand side. So this sample delay is awesome. It just makes your sound sound so much wider, so much fatter. Kind of brings them to life a little bit more. It's definitely a great plugin to try and use. And then I've just got it sent to this reverb as well. And here is what that is in silent. So you can pause it on here if you like that sound, you want to use it. That's all it is. Just pause it on part A, pause it on part B, copy that. I got some distortion. Here's the settings for that. A little bit of chorus and a little bit of compression on here. You can just like I said, just pause it on those if you want like that. I'm running the newest beta version, the 2.21 of Silent, and so when I save my presets, it's not working with the other version. I think just 2.2, which is what most people have. You can go on their website and download the 2.21. I'm more than happy to put up the presets. I just know on the last track that I did, when I put up the presets, a lot of people were saying that they weren't working for them, and I think it's just because they won't work with a lower version of Silent. So if you're running 2.21, I'm more than happy to put these up if you want it. Just let me know. So that's that. Next up is this buzzy bass. That's what it sounds like with all this on. EQ, taking out some of those highs, taking out a tiny bit of the lows because, it's a lower bass, but I'm taking out some of them because I'm going to leave room for this one. You can hear how that has a lot more high end to it, and then when I have the EQ on, it gets rid of some of that high. Makes it more of a lower mid range bass. This first compressor again is just compressing sound, bringing out some nuances. It's very subtle compression. This one here is my sidechain one again. And it's also being sent to that synth bus right here. And here's what those sound like with the drums. Okay. Next up is this sub bass. Super easy patch in Silent. All it is simple sine wave down 2 octaves. Let me solve that. So all you're getting is like super low end. There's nothing going on other than that. That's all you need for sub bass. And the EQ, all I want is this range right here. You don't want any of these highs. You don't want anything below 30. It's not going to do anything anyway. Yeah, get rid of all those highs. This compressor is just sidechaining. Same settings as everything else. And here's what all those sound like together. Cool. Next up, let's go over this organ sound that I've got, which is like a dead mouse type organ This thing took me forever to create, but it sounds awesome. I think it sounds pretty darn close to the Ghost and Stuff organ. Come on, that's a pretty bitchin' organ. And EQing is really going to help this instrument. It's this EVB3 organ. It's under 60s rock organ. And if you've got Logic and you want this, because some of this stuff has changed, I'm not going to go through everything. I can try and save the setting, and I can save the setting and send it to you or post it up or something. Let me know. But here, this EQ really makes a big difference. That is what's going to get this thing to sound like that. So here's this flanger going as well. Gives it that Ghost and Stuff type sound. So this compressor is just compressing the sound itself. It's not sidechain. This is just bringing out sounds. Here you can hear the difference without it. Sounds way better with that. Got this on. And then I've got this as well to be able to sidechain to here. So you can see I've got, oops. What does that? Where is... Okay, so you can see how the sidechain compressor right here is off. So you're not getting any side chaining during this section, but I do have it on in this one. So yeah. So that's what this compressor is for. And then it's just being sent to that reverb bus as well. These gains are just volume, automation, volume settings. So yeah, this track I was kind of going for an old school Dead Mouse, like Ghost and type feel. Some Wolfgang, Zed, Lucky Date type feel to it. I think this organ is what gives it that, definitely that old school Dead Mouse sound. Anyway, so here's what we got with all that. Cool. I just got this going underneath. It's this ARP thing that you can hear. Just kind of subtle in the background. Here's the EQ on it. Compressor just to bring out some of the lower notes. Second one is the side chaining. Sample delay. Gain for volume, and then just sending it to that reverb bus. Here's some noise. Let me bring this back so you can hear some of this other stuff. So all it is just some noise that's kind of way in the background, just gives the track some space. Here's the EQ on it. Compressors, one is to that, which is side chained, one is to this one, which is side chain, which I don't know why I do it this way. I seriously make it way harder for myself by having to bypass stuff and blah blah blah. But this is just the way I've always done it, and apparently I like to make things more complicated. I could just have it going to this the whole time and set this up, this ghost kick, just like my kick and snare here. This ghost kick I have just at a steady 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just on every every quarter beat. And then, you know, but I've got my drums doing some different stuff. Like at the end of this, you can hear. So anyway, I'd have to change these hits too, which would be easy to do, but whatever. I do 2 different compressors and I bypass them when I have sections like that where it's not just your steady 4 to the floor beat. Like I said, I like to make it harder on myself for some reason. Anyway, so that's that noise. Then we got these little guys that are also just like a little one-shot things. Let's bring this over. Whoa. So yeah, these are just some synth shots from Vengeance packs. So this one. Just have some subtle EQing on this guy. Some sample delay. Makes it sound a little bit wider. You can hear without it. And then with it. Just sounds cooler with that. And this one, fine on its own. All of which are panned a little bit differently, except for this one. Sample delay makes it sound automated enough with that. So that is it for this kind of main section. Let me play this whole section so you can hear what we got going on. Let me turn this off and these back. Oops. Okay. So that's that. Let's move on to this. I'll play it first for you. I feel like it's a pretty cool breakdown here. Pretty good build up, I think. That's just my opinion, but I made it, so I'm a little biased. Organ, same thing in this section. Here's what that sounds like. That's when that side chaining comes in with this. Let's see, I got tons of automation going on. Here's your volume. That just kind of helps it trail off a little bit nicer. Oh, yeah. This reverb send on this one was just... I only had it here at the beginning. So I'll actually show you what it sounds like so you can hear what I did with that. So just right here where it trails off, where the volume trails off, you get more of the reverb being sent, so you just get more of the reverb to trail off rather than the actual sound itself. Okay, so back to this. Here's what the organ's doing. This piano, I actually just got the Nexus 2. It's a pretty rad plugin. Super stupid expensive. I'm kind of mad at myself for buying it. But it's a pretty cool plugin. It's, I don't know. I was kind of torn on getting this thing. I really got it for the pianos more than anything, to be honest with you. But it's got some pretty rad stuff. It's the lazy man synth. So if you just want something that sounds great on its own, you don't want to mess around with silent, you don't want to mess around with massive trying to spend forever making sounds, this is definitely gonna be your go-to plugin. It's got some great sounds, and I mean, you can mess with things and tweak with things, but most of this stuff sounds pretty great right out of the box. Yeah. Like I said, it's definitely the lazy man synth. But it's pretty rad. I gotta be honest. I'm pretty stoked with it. I'm not super happy with how much it was. Still kind of mad at myself for getting that, but whatever. It'll be worth it. I'll use it enough. Anyway, here's what's going on with that piano. And this piano is this dance piano 2007, which this just comes with the stock Nexus. I did add some expansion packs on, but yeah, this one's just stock. What do we got going on with this guy? Let me turn off this. Okay, so let me show you what this sounds like. So, it definitely sounds better. That's just what it's sounding like straight out of the Nexus. I think the only things that I messed with on it were delay and reverb settings. Everything else I just left. And Here's with the EQ. A little more boxy sounding without the EQ. And then some good old sample delay. I use this on so many tracks, but it sounds awesome. And then the compression, that's just side chaining. So on any hits that it's hitting at the same time as the kick and snare would be down here. Side chains it a little bit, just gives it a little bit of some movement. Let's see what's next. This little horn thing. This, I was trying to get a sound that was similar to a sound that Wolfgang uses in some of his newer stuff, which sounds kind of like a foghorny type sound. And sure enough, Nexus had something that was like it. This I definitely messed with though. I definitely messed with some parameters. It's a lead, detune lead 6. Which pack is this in? It's in one of the ones that just comes with it. It's in the single layer leads. But yeah, this one I definitely messed with some settings on this modification table. The mix right here, change some settings, the reverb and delay. So yeah, I definitely messed with that one a little bit, and then I'm automating as well in here some pitch bends and whatnot. Oh, here, let's pull up just one of these so you can see what it sounds like. Anyway, let me turn these guys off. Sounds pretty cool. Here's with the EQ on. So not a huge difference with the EQ on, it just helps it stand out a little bit more. Cuts out some of those lows that didn't need to be there. This compressor is bringing out just some nuances in the sound. This one is the side chain. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty rad sound. Again, totally could have done that in silent or massive or whatever, but I was lazy. And Nexus had it, so. Next up. Oh, here's what these sound like together. There you go. Next up that comes in is this riser. And this was as well. It was Nexus. And this is from the Future Arps 3, and it's the Dutch lead 1. And I believe I messed with this one. Let's see. Yeah, I messed with some of these settings in here. On this mod page, I messed with some of these settings, I think. Yeah, messed with some of these settings too. Where's this? So here's that art page that and then just I've got this pitch bend going up here at the end so that it rises. This kind of gives it that lucky date sort of feel. You can see how I've got the panning going from left to right. Just gives it some movement. Here's with the EQ on. Just taking out some of those unnecessary lows, boosting some of the mids. Here's some compression that's just bringing out nuances again. And this one is the side chain. It's being sent to this reverb bus as well. Okay. And I've got this guy, which I was pretty happy with this bit. Z bass and massive. Here's my settings. I can send you this if you want. I can post this up. Yeah, I can post this up if you guys want. Just send me something. I'll send it to you. Here's what it sounds like on its own. This is what it's being sent to that. All these are being sent to that, not the piano, but these are being sent to that synth bus. Okay, so here's what it sounds like without any effects. And here's what the EQ. Let me start over here where the volume's louder. Okay, so that's with the EQ on. It's first compressor. Again, just compressing the sound a little. Makes it sound better. This one is the side chain, good old side chain. Just gives it some movement. And the trusty sample delay. Okay. And here's what they sound like together. So there's that. And I just have this white noise going on underneath it. This was just done with the ESP. Just a noise. Nothing special. You can do this in any. You can do this in any synth. I just have the cutoff and resonance being automated. And then there at the end, I just have this little filter sweep. Okay. The compressor just side chained. Same settings as everything else. EQ. Pretty simple. And then this guy here at the end. Just a little blast. So here's that section. Again. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do next, is show you this section that I just played, and we'll get to that. So this section here, it's kind of bridge. Let's start with the Z square, which is the same. Everything's the same as this one that I showed you in this last section. I'm not sure what I might have changed. It's a good question. I don't know why I duplicated it. I don't know. I think I might have had some different settings on it. Anyway, let's do this without anything on. So with the EQ on, it just takes a little bit of that low end out, because I've got this buzzy bass and the sub bass for that low end. I really wanted this more for like a crispy high end sound during this part. It's fairly low underneath all this, and all of these things layered gives you just one big fat sound. This first compressor is just compressing the sound itself. And this one is going to be your side chaining. Good old sample delay. And then the gain as well for just volume. And it's being sent to that bus 3, which is the reverb bus. And then this is going out it's going out into that synth bus, which is right here, which is all being compressed together to make it sound cohesive. Let's hear what it sounds like with all that stuff on. Okay. Next up, we've got this one, which this lead is the same as this, just EQ'd a tiny bit differently, as far as what I can remember. And it's panned all the way to the left hand side, and then I've got this one which is doing the same thing, just panned to the right at a different octave. Okay, so this first one All this sounds better in headphones too, by the way, or good monitors than it's going to sound just coming out of your computer speakers, just so you know when you're listening. Now, you'll hear it's being sent to bus 3, and so you'll hear a lot of the reverb coming, like, even though this is going out of the left, you hear the reverb coming out of the center, since the reverb channel is centered, which sounds weird when this is on its own, but when it's paired with this one, it blends just fine. So here, let me actually turn that off. Okay, and then you can hear what the EQ is doing, bypass it. Let me turn off the drums. Okay, let's bring those back. So you can hear I've got it compressed. I've got it sidechained to this bus 1 when it's doing these hits. And this is why sometimes I'll do 2 separate compressors that are sidechained and change it up between going to this ghost kick or going to this. For sections like this where the drums change, but I still want it to be sidechained to it. And then the good old sample delay. Which actually I don't even know why I have that on, since it's panned all the way to the left anyway. It's kind of pointless to have that on. I just realized that. But whatever, it's not harming anything. And then this right one, same exact thing, just it's up an octave. You can see this one's played at C sharp 3, and this one is at C sharp 4. And everything on it is exactly the same, except this one just panned all the way to the right. No difference. Oh, it is a different sound. Okay, so this first one going to the left is done here in silent, which is the same as my main lead. It's the same exact lead that I have going here. And this one going to the right channel is a Nexus sound, so it is different. Let's hear what this one is. Yeah. So this is out of the Dance Leads Ego Punk. And here's the EQ. Let me turn these off. Again, sample delay is kind of useless. Don't really need it. So that's very subtle. Sorry about that. They are testing the alarms in our complex right now. It's super annoying. So you might hear that every now and again. Compressor, same thing, just compressing the sound. side chaining. Sample delay, which doesn't even need to be on. Okay, so let's hear these two together so you can hear what they sound like when they're working together. Okay. So you can hear how that sounds super fat. And it sounds really wide when they're played together. So let me solo each of them. Okay, so the next thing, okay. The next thing to go over is this breakdown saw, which was done as well with the Nexus. Yeah, it's this super easy to make. It's just super saw. Pretty basic sound to make, but since I spent so much money on this, I decided I would use it. Just being sent to that reverb bus. The channel EQ, let me turn all these off. Here's what it sounds like with nothing on it. Super bassy, so all I have the EQ doing here is kind of taking out that bassiness because I've got my basses here covering that frequency range, so I don't need this doing that. And I just boosted some mids, some mid-highs, just to help it stand out a little bit. The compression is just very subtle side chaining. I don't want this making a huge difference. So here you can hear what that's doing. Oh, I need to... Okay. So yeah, you can hear how it's just ducking a little bit under those just to make that kick and snare stand out a little bit more, but it's just barely doing anything. And here's the... Sorry. The chord. So yeah, that's what the chords are doing. Let's turn that back on. And here's that section. I think that covered everything. So yeah, that's what that section sounds like, and then it just comes back into this section, which is essentially this section right in here that we already covered. It's the same thing as that, just The only thing I did is I introduced this riser again just for a build up, just to make this a little bit different than the first time around. So you can hear what's going on in that. So yeah, that's really the only thing that's going on that section. That's different. So So yeah, that's all that section is doing that's different than the first one, is I kind of just brought this in. And I took out this section just because, after a break like this, you want it to sound a little bit bigger. One thing that I will go over is on this riser, there's a little trick that I just learned. I've got this auto painting. Well, I don't have it auto painting. I have it painting by automation. But I learned this cool little trick that can do auto painting for you. So you don't have to automate it like that. If you go into the tremolo, just the way it's set by default is auto painting. So this is this phase is going from left to right. And this is how fast the rate is, how fast it's going to go. At depth, it's going to go all the way left, all the way right, all the way left, all the way right. So you can see I've got mine going from 30 to 30. So if you wanted that, you just bring this down, to, 70% or something like that. And then it's not going to be going all the way from left, all the way right. But this allows you to do auto painting, which is pretty cool. Didn't know they had that. So that's a cool little trick for you guys. And you don't have to spend time doing this, which really isn't that difficult. But if you want a way to automatically do it, that's how you do it. This next section here is the same as this section that we just went over a little bit ago. All I have is at the end, I've got a click track out. That's really the only difference. So here at the end. You can hear this noise. So yeah, that's really the only difference on this outro section, is I just kind of slowly fade these guys out into the click track. And that's all there is. Okay, so now for probably the most important part that everybody wants to know how to do is going to be your mastering. Oh, actually, I don't know if I've gone over the buses yet or not. Let me go over those real quick. So the buses, I've got my kick. Okay, so I've got my kick, my snare, my shaker, my hi-hat, All of these are going to this drum bus, and this drum bus, let's loop this. Okay, so all I have on it is I've got a low cut at 30 hertz, and then, which really you shouldn't need because everything should be low cut at that anyway. And then all I have is just some small compression going on just to make it more even. It's just taking away any peaks, just kind of gluing everything together so it sounds like one cohesive unit. Same thing with the synths. I have all these that are going to bus 11 here. So this organ, this lead, the buzzy bass, the sub bass doesn't need to go. This. Okay, so all those are going to this synth bus, which is going to be doing the same thing as that drum bus. And it's just very subtle compression again, just taking care of any peaks, just kind of gluing it all together. So yeah, it's not doing a ton, but it does enough to make a difference. So you'll notice when I bypass that, you're not noticing a huge difference in the sound, which is good. You don't want to notice a huge difference in the sound. You just want it to sound cohesive. So those are the buses that I used. What else? That's it. So next up, the mastering, which I'm sure everybody wants to know. Here's what the track sounds like without any mastering. So I've still, look at how much headroom I have. That's what's awesome about digital audio. You can have so much headroom like this, and it's great. So anyway, all I have, this linear phase EQ, anytime you're doing mastering, you want linear phase EQ. Channel EQ is going to give you phasing issues sometimes. So yeah, linear phase EQ. I just have small boosts here and there, small cuts here and there. You never want anything above like 1 to 1.5, 2 at most. I would never really do 2. You should redo your EQing. Most of the time, sometimes you don't even need this, but you can't tell a huge difference. It's pretty subtle. So let me show you. Here's with that off. So yeah, super subtle. The multipressor, this is super confusing. Really confusing. But if you can get the hang of doing this, it's great. It's a great tool to use on your master chain. I like using a multipressor better than I like using a regular compressor. Regular compression, what it's going to do is when your track peaks, it's going to bring everything down. So you get a lot more pumping. Depending on your compression settings, you may not get a ton of pumping, which is in essence what you want. You don't want your track, you don't want to hear your track going lower and then coming back up. So you want subtle compression. What's great about the multi-band compressors is that you don't get that pumping because it's affecting different frequency bands at different amounts and all that. So you don't get that pumping. It sounds way more transparent, which is what you want. This is I've got 4 bands. You can set up 2 bands. You can set up 3 bands. 3 bands is probably fine. I have this set up for 4 bands. On my, this is the Take 2 version for this tutorial, but all your ratios should be the same. All your attack and release should be the same. So let's change these. I'm just going to leave those, whatever. It's not a huge difference. All you're going to do is you are going to start with these all zeroed out. Okay, so you start with all zeroed out. Turn that auto gain off. So here's what the compressor is like, just kind of on its own. Now, all you're going to do is you're going to listen to your track, and you're going to slowly move these thresholds down until you start seeing movement. So okay, so that's in essence what you do. Is you just move these around till you start seeing, you want very little movement. You don't want a ton of compression. If you overcompress things, you're going to make your track sound horrible. So just very, very subtle movement. That's all you're going to do. Then, because that's making your track quieter, I turn the auto gain on, but you'll notice with the auto gain on, the reason I put this down to 6 is because you'll see. Watch. Turn your speakers down. If I leave that, it's clipping like crazy. See how in the red that is? So I'm bringing this down so that it stays out of that. It's bringing it up with the auto gain on. It's bringing it up a lot more than what I'm taking this down. So you're still getting some more gain out of it, but it's not peaking above 0 now. So yeah, that's the multi-presser. This is a really great tool to learn how to use. It can totally screw up your track if you're not using it properly, but it can sound a heck of a lot more transparent and do a lot better job with audio quality than a regular compressor is going to do. You're going to hear a lot less ducking because it's affecting everything separately. And yeah, like I said, you can mess around with a 2-band, you can mess around with 3-band. 3 bands is generally okay. For this track, I did a 4-band, and I just have it set up kind of like you would for any EQing. You know, you've got your low range, you've got your 0 to like 100, and then you've got from 100 to, you know, your 600 or 700 hertz range, and then you've got your mid highs, you know, and then your highs. So I just have it set up kind of like that that you would with EQing, and so it's affecting everything separately. So you can see, watch the movement on it. See how everything is fairly subtle in the movement? That's all you want. You want it to be really subtle, but you can hear how much louder it is with this on. Much better, right? then this gain, I just took it up a little bit before it gets into the limiter low cut, which I always throw on, which is kind of, you don't really need. I always do it just for extra precaution. And then the adaptive limiter, I'll normally use the waves limiter, but not everybody has that. So I'll use like the waves L2 or something, or the L3, because those are great. But just to show you guys, because not everybody has the wave stuff, the adaptive limiter is what you want to use on your mastering chain. If all you have is like just what comes with Logic, which actually does a great job. This little arrow right here, click on that, put your look ahead all the way to the 200 milliseconds as far as it'll go. Make sure it's on no over. And then you can hear, if I bypass this, and all you want to do with this is start at 0, and you're just slowly going to bring it up. It's at 0. What you're going to do is you're going to start bringing this up until it sounds loud enough, and not distorting. I'll show you what this will do when you just boost the crap out of it, which you hear so many new producers and beginners doing. They just toss this up as high as they can just to try and get it loud, which sounds like crap. And it's actually not really making your track louder. It's just squashing the crap out of it and then making it distort. So I'll show you. Just turn your speakers down because it's going to get really loud. But you'll see what I'm talking about here. So that's where I have my track set at, and you can see there's still some movement going on here. It still sounds really loud. Now watch when I go past 4. You're not going to really, it's going to get a little bit louder, but it's going to start to distort. And then I'm going to get to a certain point, right around maybe 6 or 7 dB, where it's going to just start distorting. You're not going to notice it getting any louder. You're going to notice some frequency ranges getting a little bit louder, but it just sounds like crap. So here, make sure your speakers. So do you hear what I'm talking about? Like, it's not making a huge difference in the overall volume by going that loud. You're just getting a ton of distortion. So learning how to use a limiter is going to be huge on how good your track sounds. Don't maximize the crap out of it just to try and get it loud, because at a certain point you're not getting any louder. It's just distorting it. And you just want to find that sweet spot of where it's definitely loud enough and not distorting. So on this track at 4 dB was good. It's nice and loud, but it's still clean. It's not distorting. Typically what I'll do is, this is just for tutorial purposes, obviously. But typically what I'll do is I'll bounce stems out, put them, into a new session, and then I will, I'll master, I'll mix from that, and then what I'll do is I'll put everything into one stereo track, and then I'll master. So I just have this put on here just for ease of this tutorial. But typically I'll set up my mastering chain just so I can A/B while I'm doing my track, but I don't do my mastering in a session like this, just so you guys know. Then what I'll do, once I have one stereo track, is I'll throw that stereo track into a new session, and I'll put on this mastering chain, and I'll mess with my settings to get it to sound the way I want it to sound. Once it sounds good to me, I will bring in another track, say a Zed track or a Wolfgang Gartner track or a Deadmau5 track or someone that I know has awesome mastering jobs done, and I will A/B my track with their track and see how it compares. Sometimes I like the way mine sounds just fine. Sometimes theirs might be louder, but for me personally, it's not all about it being as loud as possible. It's about it sounding good. When you're listening to songs by themselves, you're not going to notice that it's off by 2 or 3 RMS. I have this dynamic range meter, and most songs are going to be somewhere between 6 to 9. Most EDM songs are somewhere between 6 and 9 RMS, which is plenty loud. Sometimes you'll see songs that are in the 4s. I don't know how the heck they get them that loud and still sound clean. I mean, to me, they don't always sound the cleanest when the dynamic range is that low. But anyway, we can get into debates about that all day. Just make your track sound good for what you want it to sound like. When you're listening to a Zed track and then you move on to a track that you did, you may notice a difference in how loud it is for maybe the first 3 seconds, and then your ears are going to adjust, and then you're not going to notice anymore. So who cares? Don't worry about that. Just make your track sound good for what it is. That's probably everybody's biggest problem, is trying to match what other people are doing. And you want to reference what other people are doing, because you can definitely tell when a track is unmastered, but don't use meters like this to just copy. Because what I'll do is, if I have this on and I see that a Zed track is in the 4 RMS range and I try and get mine into the 4 RMS range, mine's going to sound like crap. And to me, I don't want it to sound like crap. I want it to sound as good as possible for my track. So hopefully that makes some sense. You can see that my track is in the 6 to 9 range, which is good. And it still sounds clear. I could boost it higher, but I'm going to start to get some distortion, and I don't want that. And who knows what Zed's doing and what Deadmau5 is doing. I think Deadmau5 does his own. I have no idea if Zed does his own. I think he might do his own too. Your big name people, who knows? I mean, they're on major labels. They could be sending out to mastering engineers that are doing this, that are going to do a heck of a lot better job than you and I. So don't worry about getting it exactly like theirs. Like, just do what's best for you. Yeah. That's pretty much it on this track. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go ahead and play this from the beginning for you so you can hear what it's doing. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comments. I'm more than happy to put down some of these patches for you guys if you guys want. Sorry I did a lot of stuff in Nexus. I know a lot of you aren't going to have that, but I did that because I bought it and I wanted to use it since I spent so much stupid money on it. So anyway, here's this track from the beginning. So that's that. Like I said, if you have any questions, just go ahead and hit me up in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully I covered everything that you need. If you need patches or anything, I'm more than happy to put them up. Sorry again that I used the Nexus so much, but I spent the money, I'm going to use it. So let me show you. I've got another track. There's this new track that I'm working on. Okay, so here's a new track that I'm working on, which I'm going to end up doing a tutorial on. Just a little preview of what I got going on. I've only worked on this for like an hour or two, but here's what it sounds like so far. So that's all I have so far on this one, but this is what I'm going to be doing next for you guys if you guys want. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I covered everything that you need. If you need more, hit me up. I'm more than happy to do more in depth on anything that you need me to do something more in depth on. All right. I'll see you guys later.